Hi, my name is Mike Peaslee. I'm the Operations Director of Soundiron, and I'm here to talk about our Hyperion Strings Ensemble library. It's our largest library to date. It took us 5 years to build, and it's been an absolute labor of love. Each aspect of it, we've obsessed over, I think an extreme degree that we've never really gone to before. And as much as we're known for our high quality and highly detailed instruments and our tendency to kind of dig into every nook and cranny of sonic potential that a library can have, with this it was more of I think a personal mission we had to try to do something that was beyond our own personal capabilities. So with every decision from where we recorded it, to the articulations, to how we presented them, edited them, as we're refining the content in post-production, what to leave raw versus what to manicure for the most sort of picture-ready sound we could. That was a careful decision that we made step by step. And so for us, it took 5 years and many sleepless nights and thousands of hours of editing and post-production, scripting, programming, QA, and everything in between. Hyperion Strings Ensemble includes first violins, second violins, viola, cello, and bass. We wanted a more intimate and yet full sound, so we went with a smaller ensemble, essentially a chamber strings size group with 8 first violins, 7 second violins, 6 violas, 5 cellos, and 4 basses. And we grouped them in a wide array so that we would have a focused and yet broad sound with distinct clarity of each, for each player. So you could really hear that guy's there, that lady's there, and you really just get this distinct sense that you're in front of this ensemble. First, we mic each player up with a large diaphragm studio mic right on their instrument. Each player had their own. We weren't just gonna do with this, contact mics or lab mics or pickups on each instrument. We really wanted each one to be treated like they were a soloist. So each player has their own, large microphone, and then we had our stage mics, which are basically the standard mic. Typically, we would call our close mic for all of our libraries. Our Apocalypse Percussion Ensemble, the Symphony Series, Woodwinds and Brass, Olympus, Requiem, all of those things. We have a kind of a standard sound that we want to, that has a lot of body and punch and clarity, and gives you the most flexibility to EQ or shape as you want, absolutely no noise. So that's our classic A position. In this library, you'll see that as our close mic, that standard universal Soundiron sound. The stage mics are those close individual player mics that has, I just want to say, a cut to it, a clarity. You hear every sort of crackle of the bow, every movement of the instrument. There's just a precision and an intensity that I think you won't find anywhere else. It works awesome as its own standalone sound. If you just load the stage mics and use that in your mix, it's gonna jump out and yet have presence and distinctive kind of character that I think you're not gonna find anywhere else. That layers extremely well with any of the other mic positions. If you want the body of the close mic, which has a very full round sound, the stage position sits right on top of that and adds just that right amount of edge that you can mix in or out depending on what you want. Beyond that, we have the mid-hall position, and that is kind of a darker, smoother sound. It's about 20 feet from the players and in a wide configuration. But basically that has a much smoother sound. It fits much more with an 80s or a 70s era symphonic sound. It sits well in the mix, but it still has enough presence and clarity that you can have it up front. it kind of has that classic sort of Hollywood sound from, you know, that era. The far mics, we shaped those to have a much smoother satiny finish. They're way darker. They're really kind of smooth and saturated, and they kind of have a very 60s to 70s kind of sound. So they're really good for really kind of that classic layered string effect, where you're going for kind of just atmosphere or kind of a vintage kind of quality. We didn't want to just, with our mic positions, try to, you know, all right, this is this far away, this is that far away, here's our decas, here's our this or that. We were really trying to give each mic position a purpose, a use case, so that you could use any one of them by themselves, standalone, or in layers. We wanted each person, you know, to find what they needed in this library. And then, of course, they stack so well together to get this monstrous sound. I talked about how we went with a smaller ensemble size, mainly so that we can mic each player and get that really intense close sound. But that also gave us the ability to focus on each articulation so that it has definition and clarity. And with all these layers, with all the mic positions, and with the ability to position them anywhere you want, it has a massive sound. It doesn't sound like a small ensemble when you don't want it to. If you want a very, you know, intimate sound, that stage position gives that to you. But if you want just a wash, a huge sound, then you can layer your B and your mid and far mics and get like a much broader overall symphonic sound. So it's a very versatile library. We really wanted something that could serve as a backbone for string orchestration, but allow you to really dial in or pull back and find the way you wanted to use it in your mix for any given composition or, you know, situation where you need strings. I'll talk a little bit about the microphones. So for the close mics, each player has their own Neumann TLM 103. We went with that because it's our standard. It has extremely low noise. It has a brilliant sound and crisp definition, excellent transient response, and you're going to really hear the way the ear hears, in our opinion. And then for the close mics, our standard position, we use the TLM 107 in the kind of the wide cardioid pattern. So it's very much like the 103, and it's very low noise and very clear, very natural, very linear. You know, we use the pattern that allows you to kind of get a broader sound, not quite as directional, so that it kind of gives you a nice unified sound for the whole group. For the mid position, we use KM183 Omnis, and they just have a nice wide stereo feel because we had them about, you know, 15 feet apart from each other and balanced in position so that they get a good balance of room versus direct sound. That will relate well to the mid position for Olympus, and we've used that in a lot of different ways to get like a very clear image, nice wide stereo field, and good balance of environment versus close, versus direct signal. And then for our far mics, we went with TLM 102s at about, they're about 50 feet away. Again, to get the low noise quality and that accuracy, but with a little bit of a more distant sort of like diffuse sound. So it was a pairing of distance and microphone choice, balancing noise versus character. And we think overall each mic position just stands out on its own as excellent by itself, as its own library effectively. They're not just slightly different, they're very distinct. We tried to make them each have their own character. I'll talk now about the features in the library, the content features. We have clean, non-vibrato and vibrato sustains in full range of dynamics. So you can go from piano to forte and really sculpt your dynamics, sculpt the intensity. We have bow sustains where you very dramatic, sweeping bow undulations to get kind of more of an emotional and intense effect. We have obviously tremolo in a full range of dynamics, so you can really get in there for those tense moments and then it swell up to kind of a massive intense sound. true legato, portamento, and fingered legato. And it's very, we've programmed it over years to dial in just a really natural sort of intuitive playability. So the faster you play, the faster that legato, and that tighter the legato, the slower you play, the more relaxed, the more emotive it is. And that is the same for both the portamento and the finger legato. It rides your expression. Or you can just set a setting if you want and just stick with that and stick with that response. But because we give you the choice. We want you to be able to decide, do I want the system to decide for itself what's best in this moment based on what I'm playing, or do I want to really just choose my own adventure? Beyond that, we have a whole range of effects, chromatic articulations, things like ponticello, harmonic sustains, flautando. Each section has each of these standard, what we call standard, effect articulations. Obviously, we've got a wide gamut of short articulations for each section, from long, slow staccatos to slightly tighter to very precise staccatos, and even, we basically, and then we got spiccatos in 2 different speeds. We've got plucks, and we've got Bartok pizzicatos, and then we've got Colegno. So plus a whole range. The list is long because there's also, in a lot of cases, for a lot of sections, there's the tremolo staccatos. There are other specialty staccatos. Each of our effect sustains also has a staccato version. So you can basically sculpt a full performance from any of these, unique sounds and characters to fit whatever you're trying to do. To layer them, to move in and out of them, to affect whatever you want. We wanted to throw the kitchen sink at this in terms of the variety of articulations. We have runs, we've got trills in half step and whole step, and for the first violins, we've got a much wider range of trill intervals. So you can basically do a lot of different things that you couldn't do in a more conventional string library. You've got our expressions, and this is where this library goes over the top. Expressions, this is a different way of saying really expressive or emotive sustain or defined length articulations that can be tempo synced and release whenever you want. They'd be like sforsandos and swells, long crescendos, short crescendos, long decrescendos, short decrescendos, crescendos that go from vibrato to clean or clean to vibrato for kind of reveals or tense moments in a variety of lengths and dynamic expressions. So we've got really big to really small crescendos, and then we kind of got fuller, kind of like forte to mezzo forte, and vice versa for crescendo. Like, we basically wanted to get every way you could sort of like build a moment or bring yourself out of a moment, and give you honestly a full range of expressions that go beyond just, am I sustaining, am I swelling up, am I dropping down? We wanted it to be performed that way, not just simulated. So there are dozens of these distinct tempo syncable sort of independent expressions that you can layer or use independently. We think that these of all the articulations give the most ability to bring life to a composition, to bring intensity, to bring delicacy, and to play emotively. And they can, they're not just like kind of an effect where you just put it where you want. It's like you can just play them. You can layer them. You can key switch them. They play. You can just fall into playing and just kind of lose yourself. We wanted it to really be a playable instrument, not just something that is for the expert to like fine tune and fit into some exact circle. We want it to be for everybody. So it is a power tool, and at the same time a broad paintbrush, something that anybody can just pick up and sort of dive into. We wanted it to fit everybody's kind of needs. We know no product can do that in absolute. We specialized in a lot of ways, but we also wanted to provide a tool that you could pick up whenever you need strings. It also will layer well with any other strings you have. As always, Soundiron, we like to go for body and presence and sort of a robust sound. So that is there in spades with Hyperion Strings Ensemble. And that is something that we always like to deliver. So that's something you can count on with this library. We have, in addition to our slot control systems and independent articulation controls that are specialized for the needs of each articulation, we also have a full effect rack that allows you to shape the sound even further with compression, with EQ. And then we have a space page on full where you can kind of create the environment. You can use convolution or algorithmic reverb and really dial in the kind of environment you want, and then you can position in on the XY axis where you want this section to live. So you can create a classic concert seating arrangement, or go right down the middle, or anywhere in between. You can bring the players way forward and suddenly get really fat and present, or push them way back to get a really distant sound. So even within each mic position, you have a lot of range to sculpt the sound to your needs. And then we have a lot of play assist features as well that allow you to lock to scale, arpeggiate, do all kinds of different things that you come to expect from a Soundiron library. The ability to kind of get there from here, wherever you're trying to get to, and from wherever you're starting, we want you to get there from here. So there are tools that you may never use, and there are tools that you'll use every day. It depends on what you need and who you are. And we wanted to provide that variety, that range of options to you. An important goal here with this library for us was to make sure that it was playable right out of the box, so you could just dive right in, knowing nothing about it, and just be blown away by the sound, by the playability, and by the options that we give you. It is as user-friendly as we could make it. That's one of the reasons it took us so long to develop it, because there was a lot of discussion, a lot of trial and error, a lot of prototyping, a lot of testing on different instruments, as we developed our user interface philosophy to reach this pinnacle for us. You can, if you're a power user, if you're a professional composer, you're the ones who put us in business in the first place. That's where we started, was serving professional media composers, film composers, game composers, television and advertising composers. We wanted to provide you all of the tools that you would expect and present it in a way that fits your workflow. If you're just starting out, if you're a student or just a hobbyist, we wanted it to not be a mystery, to be able to just get in there and feel like, okay, I can play this. I can learn it. And the depth of features we provide, the options, the tools, was so that you'll never run out of things to discover in this library. We try to present it for you in an intuitive way, but there are so many tools in the box that you'll never stop learning as you use it. It will grow with you, and you'll be able to use it in more and more ways that you won't expect right as you get started. We provide a lot of options for templating, a lot of options for loading different templates or presets that you create or that we provide in each of the different control panels. So you can customize your workflow and load up something that works for you in one project, bring it into another one, or from one section to another. One of the things that people asked for with our primary set of articulations, sustains and shorts, was that it would just play that way, that you could just play staccatos and then hold, and then as you're working, the swell knob to control the dynamics, and we've got an intelligent system to do that, so you can just accent and hold. In our performance articulation, it's basically the first thing that you'll load. It's the top of the menu for articulations to choose from. But then you can get into all the different options and all of the specific articulations if you really want to get into the weeds with it. They're all right there. With the legato presets, we also wanted to include that same functionality. So when you first attack that note, there's an accent, if you want, that essentially is in a staccato to really versus kind of swell in, and you've got control over that. As you go, you can dynamically modify that to kind of work how much of an accent, how much of an attack you want in any given passage. One of the key features we've added to this library that you wouldn't find in the Elements version is the dynamic A/B system. And that is basically the ability to go from one articulation to the other smoothly. Any combination of articulations. So you can create complex layers and morph between them by assigning a slot to either the A group or the B group. And then we have a slider on the lower right side of the user interface that you can obviously automate and then move and blend between those two sets of articulations. You might be going from a sforzando expression to a swell expression, or from a sforzando, or from a layered, decrescendo kind of like heart attack that fades out with multiple groups, to say a flautando sustain, or to go between different kinds of effects, different kinds of anything you like. So you can dynamically move between them, and they're assigned a key switch. They can be assigned to different velocity layers, so you can make your articulations dynamic, or based on key switch, or based on the A/B crossfading, or any combination of them. So you can get as nuanced as you like. If you have a lot of MIDI controllers, you can be basically the captain of your ship, kind of in real time shaping the sound seamlessly, and go as far as that as you like. One of the features that you will find in Elements and in the full ensemble library is the sustain vibrato, non-vibrato blend. And that is standard for the dynamic sustains and a lot of the independent dynamic layers that you can, if you really want to get the piano layer but still sculpt it dynamically, you can do that. But you can also move between clean and vibrato to kind of focus or broaden your sound, or kind of dial it in anywhere in between. I've always liked that, because to me, it's not just one, and like the AB system, you can't just speak with one voice, when you're creating music. You want to be able to breathe and flow and sort of ride with the emotion. And so a lot of this, we wanted to be stock. We wanted to fit right from the beginning into the way you interact with the instrument, so that you're working with your dynamics, you're working with your sort of vibrato intensity, you're working with blends between different articulations, and that it's not just like a gear shift, you're changing key switches, and one thing or another thing, you're playing one at a time. We wanted it to be a miasma of expression, for that to be kind of right there in the interface and built right in. But at the same time, we don't force you to work that way. We allow you, the slot system, to dial in just the articulations you want, to trigger them just the way you want, when you want, to have independent control over each articulation with a variety of parameters that are specific to, that fit that specific parameter. So the user interface moves with you. You're just presented with the controls that are relevant to what you're working with, instead of just having an array of knobs and switches that have no real bearing on what you're doing at any given time. So we really wanted it to present, there's a lot there, but at the same time, that meant we had to choose carefully how we present it, so that it's not overwhelming nor too Spartan. We didn't want it to be like bare and make you feel like you're just getting what we give you. We want you to be in control of these tools, so that you can achieve the creative results you're after. Hyperion Strings Ensemble represents the largest project we've ever done, the largest library that we've created. It's around 130 gigabytes. It has over 100,000 samples. These are just trivial ideas and numbers, but it gets to the point that we really wanted to go beyond anything we'd done before. It has more depth, more detail, and every feature that we could work in that we thought really could make a difference for somebody. We want this to fill out a mix, to bring life to a composition, to feel like you have the players right there with you, and that you're in command of what they do, how they do it, how they express, that you're not working to the library, but the library is working for you. That was very important to us. We're very proud of it. We hope you enjoy it. It's been years in the making, and we think that it will serve you for years as a valuable tool in your musical arsenal. I think you'll enjoy it. We hope you do. Thanks a lot.